The game is called 7 because it uses a 7 by 7 board, and each team has 7 pieces, and they must move 7 spaces every turn. Chess and checkers have an 8 by 8 board. However, when you have a 7 by 7 board, like the game 7 does, it creates a center square. The center square is called the throne of God. You cannot move a piece across or through the center square. The object of the game is to get 4 of your pieces simultaneously on all 4 of these squares, the swirling clouds known as the gate of heaven, and to do so before your opponent does. If you win in that manner, you win 55 points. Another way of winning is getting 4 of your opponent's pieces simultaneously on all 4 shield or dungeon squares, in which case you win 33 points. If you get all 4 gates of heaven and put 4 of your opponent's pieces on all 4 shield squares, you win a total of 77 points. You see that there are 3 dice. When any 2 of the dice or all 3 of the dice add up to 7, you get another turn and can choose any of the dice as your play. You can see here that the 4 and the 3 have a red border around them indicating that they add up to 7, and the green border indicates that therefore you can choose any of the 3 dice to play. When there's a flashing blue around the square, it's indicating a suggestive move, in which case I'll go ahead and click on it, take a 3 roll here, a 90-degree turn, and complete it with a 7. A piece can move across any other pieces as long as it doesn't move through the center square and must land on an unoccupied square, with the exception of the 2 archangels, one on my opponent's team and one on my team highlighted by the halo. An archangel can capture another piece, that is, land on an opponent's piece, and then it can put it on any available square on the board except for the center 9. It can also swap itself with another piece on its team if it doesn't have a good play. And it can also, if it is in one of the gates of heaven, as its turn, move to an available gate of heaven to prevent being captured. So I'm going to go ahead and move my archangel over 1, taking the default roll. When none of them add up to 7, I use the dice all the way to the left, which is red, highlighted by the green border, and I'll go ahead and move 1 to the left, up 6, which totals 7. When 2 of the dice are a pair, that means I can move the number of the dice of the pair or the remaining dice. As you'll see, all 3 are highlighted by the green border, meaning I can move either a 4 or a 1. You'll see if I click on the suggested piece, I can move a 4 this way, and then you have to do a 90-degree turn after your dice roll and complete it with a total number of 7. So I'm going to go ahead and move this piece to a red square. Now you'll notice that 8 of the squares on the board are red. This is because these are the squares that can capture a gate of heaven on their next turn. If you're ever not sure whether your move is going forward or away from a gate of heaven or a red square, you can click on this button here called DTR, or distance to red. You'll see that these squares are 1 turn away from a red square. These squares are 2 turns away from a red square, and these 4 squares here are 3 turns away from a red square. So I'll go ahead and do that and get a red square, which is 1 away from a gate of heaven. I'm going to go ahead and capture a gate of heaven and knock my opponent's piece off of a gate of heaven. You'll see that it takes either a 4 or a 3 from a red square to get a gate of heaven. When I click on the piece, you'll see the gate icon appear. I'll then click there, and the piece that I knocked off of a gate of heaven goes appear to the temporary resting spot. I click on it, and then I can put it on any of the available shield squares, which is what I'll do. In this case, I don't really have a favorable move to make, and I certainly don't want to move backwards away from a red square or a gate of heaven. So what I'll do in this case is swap my Archangel with one of my pieces by clicking on the Archangel first, and then clicking on the piece that I want to swap with. Now I'm going to use my Archangel to capture one of my opponent's pieces. So I'm going to click on my Archangel. I'm going to use the 6 here, and then a 90-degree turn, and the remaining number, which totals 7. And then it will go to the temporary resting spot. I can now place it anywhere on the board. I'll go ahead and place it here. I'm going to now capture another gate of heaven here and put my opponent's piece in another shield square. If you ever happen to roll 3 6s, unfortunately, you will lose the game. Alternately, if your opponent rolls 3 6s, you will win the game. If you ever get 3 of the same number, 3 5s or 3 3s, then you get to take 3 of that particular roll. I'm going to go ahead and take another gate of heaven. Now, if my opponent rolls a 4 or 3 on the next turn, I will be knocked off. But if he doesn't, and I roll a 4 or 3 on the next turn, then I can take the final gate of heaven and win the game. And look at that. I got a 4, so I can click on this piece here, move a 4 here, and then, of course, a 3 to total 7, and take the final gate of heaven and win the game.